I served in the Army because my dad was in the Army and my sister was in the Army, so I wanted to follow in my family's tradition.
I chose the U.S. Navy because I love the ocean, and I felt if I was ever in a war, I would prefer to be eaten by sharks than blown up by mines, and that is the God's truth.
All right. I served in the U.S. Army and Army National Guard. I chose that branch of service by mere 17-year-old impatience. I was going to go to the Navy recruiter's office because I was both in JROTC at the time with my local high school, and my grandparents were prior service Navy. But the Navy recruiter was out at lunch, and the Army recruiter saw me standing outside.
Absolutely, I would want them to. It teaches people respect and discipline, and more importantly, it teaches them perspective on life and appreciation for things that most people take for granted.
That's a very good question. Because I just got back from Cape May, New Jersey this week. My son, who graduated from the Coast Guard boot camp, and he absolutely loved it. Not the boot camp, but he's looking forward to going to his technician school. He's going to be an electronics technician, so um, yes, I would recommend it, but let your children decide that. Uh, it's like telling your 17-year-old kid that they can't have a beer. They're going to go get one. So if you don't want your kids to do something, you might want to figure out a way to possibly fulfill their curiosity if you can, and put it to rest real quick.
Um, I really don't have any thoughts on that because I think it'll be their decision. I mean, if they chose to serve, I'd be absolutely proud. If they chose not to serve, I wouldn't fault them for it.
My goals as a civilian is to just progress through everything I do, continue progressing. If I go to school, I want to keep progressing through that, try and keep going to the next level for that. Career wise, I want to do the same thing. I want to keep pushing myself to move to the next level of that. Um, and I want to take, you know, good leadership that I've seen or learned in the military, and I want to be a good leader as a civilian and just a good person as a civilian.
To continue doing what I've been doing, to be honest with you. And that involves honestly working with all branches of the service, whether no matter and agencies, to keep our way of life intact, so that we can sit here and do this. There's other countries out there where they would have kicked the door in right now if we were talking the way we were talking, and just taking us away. Well, okay, what's your objective? I think a lot of people don't know about that. When you've seen the shitholes that we have, um, I don't think that you should be able to make the comments that I've heard on social media and in the news because of that. You just don't know. Everybody wants to see the U.S. fail. Make no mistake about that.
One of my goals, I've always had kind of a loving of law enforcement. I actually was going to enlist as a military police officer, but I got talked into a different military occupation specialty. So now I'm going to school using my GI Bill to do that.
I look forward to stability the most. Um, I really enjoyed volunteering for deployments while I was in, and just enjoyed going to different places. And it's a go 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 lifestyle when you're in the military, but it really wears on you. And I made I committed to like building a life for myself here, and kind of having some stability and staying in one place?
Um, just enjoying my family. My mom's 80 years old. Glad I still have her. And, we like a lot of the same things, so that makes it, you know, good company. So this house that we bought here, it's got a room in there, and that's hers, so she can come anytime she wants and spend time with me. And she lives right here in Florida. It's about 2 hours, a little over 2 hours away. So I can go there, or she can come here. She likes her freedom. But I did buy the house with her in mind, and she's just not ready at this point. That's okay.
Change. The fact that life is constantly a change. I mean, everybody thinks you get out and you don't move around or you don't PCS, but it's still constantly adapting to life.
Not yet. I've only been out for a month and I just switched into a new uniform, so I haven't really had the chance to miss it, but I know I will miss it one day. Um, it makes life a lot easier getting ready in the morning, and it's also just like a sense of pride to put it on every day.
Sometimes I have a lot more. I mean, I still have the camaraderie even now, so that's a bonus. But for somebody that's maybe not looking for this type of gig, I understand that. But there's veterans all over the place. You'll recognize them as you go along, and they'll help you.
I do. I miss some of the ease of life that came with serving in the military. Some of the traveling around the world and the country, some of the friends you make. I mean, some of the acquaintances you make, really. They come into your lives for small points, they leave small impressions, but it lasts.
While I was in Jordan, I got to go and see old 2,000 year old Roman ruins and Petra, um, which was really amazing because you can walk right up to it. You can see 2,000 year old ruins that have really long history and all these really cool stories behind it. And you're allowed to climb all over it. They don't preserve things like they do in the U.S. You can climb on it. Sometimes people are destructive towards it, but it's cool because they have the Bedouins who are like the traditional travelers that still live there, and they live in the caves there, and they'll tell you about their life story growing up in caves in 2,000 year old ruins, and it's just crazy because they still live there, and there's this whole world going on around them, and they're still living in caves, and their entire life is just selling goods and seeing people from all over the world just stare at their home in awe, and I thought it was awesome.
I mean, as a sailor, you can, I went all over the place, and if you're a real sailor, you definitely have traveled, sometimes against your will. So you go more places than you want to. But at the time, I love traveling. I still do. Um, you just have to plan for it, really. Man, I've got so many stories. It would take a long time to go through. But I can tell you this, one thing that holds true is you meet people that you will be in touch with for the rest of your life. And I could call up some guys right now, and they would, if I needed something, they would come on over and get it. So that is right there, golden. You don't really find that anywhere else that I've seen.
So, one of my favorite times in service was when I first got to my permanent party duty station. Because, at least in the Army, and I'm not sure if it's this way in the other military groups, there's a lot of hazing that goes on, but not like college hazing. One of my favorite things was You know, with me, they tried, hey, go to supply and get me a box of grid squares. It took me about 5 minutes after nervously trying to make an impression, getting halfway to supply and realizing, hey, wait a second.
I would say go into it knowing what you're getting yourself into. Um, Especially like basic training. Don't show up thinking you're going to summer camp because you're not. Um, and don't do it because you want to be cool and it sounds badass to join the military. Do it because you want a greater sense of purpose and you want to learn something from it. Because those are the best type of people to work with in the military, are the ones who joined it for a sense of self.
Don't do it for yourself. Do it for your country, nothing else. Because you're going to get those benefits anyway. But I just say do it for the right reasons. You know, don't just, because it's not all about you. Your actions are going to affect a bunch of people because you and thousands of other guys like you in uniform are going to make a difference somewhere, fulfilling national objectives of the President of the United States. That's the end game right there. So I did it for the travel though. Like, okay, we go kick these people's ass, and then we get to go to Palma de Mallorca, Spain, where I get to lay on a beach for a week and get some R&R, and then go back and look for something else to do.
Think twice about what you're going to do. The military is an extremely large decision to make. It's life affecting, and oftentimes it's an amazing decision, but your heart has to be into it. And with that, don't just think about whether you're going to do it, but what exactly it is you want to do while you're there and what happens when you're going to get out.